There are many different views on whether or not wearing seatbelts and helmets should be required by law. So knowing basic ideas and facts can help anyone gain a better understanding of why there's such a debate. The main idea of a seatbelt is to restrain someone in an accident, and a helmet to protect a person's head. I think both of these things are good ideas, and so do most people according to the CDC, but there is still some debate on the issue. Cars.laws.com gives general information about different state laws. They start by describing these differences for each state, as varying largely on whether the state applies primary or secondary seatbelt laws. Primary seatbelt laws allow police officers to give a driver a ticket for simply not wearing their seatbelt while driving. The secondary only allows a police officer to write a ticket for the driver while not wearing the seatbelt if there is another citable infraction. All of the states, except New Hampshire, has one of these two types of laws in place. One thing that every state has in common is child seatbelt laws. These require all children to be restraint requirements. The Center for Disease Control's website, cdc.gov, gives statistics for crash-related injuries and death, as they try to convince many people to wear their seatbelts. It reports that the highest crash-related injuries of all time have occurred with adults between 18 to 24, while adults 18 to 34 are the least likely to wear their seatbelts. In their findings, they try to show that the close to 2.3 million people that are treated in emergency rooms each year after a motor vehicle crash would be lessened if all the people in question were to wear their seatbelts. In my own experiences, I have learned to appreciate the restraint of a seatbelt. On July 7th of last year, a Volkswagen ran a stop sign in front of me and I was unable to stop in time. The truck was totaled, but I ended up fine in the end. The real story comes in from the other car where the passenger was quoted to have said by the cops, "There's still a car coming," to the driver. While leaning forward to look out the front window, it would have been a terrifying fate to sit through. This person was reported to have not been wearing their seatbelt while the driver was. As you can tell from this extreme circumstance, it surely would have helped. This head-shaped indention, you guessed it, was made by the passenger's head. The officer on the scene reported that the only reason the passenger was not ejected from the car was because they didn't have enough momentum from their leaning forward position to break the glass, but instead bounced off the glass and back into her seat. In this situation, the bruise to my side seemed like a pretty good trade-off compared to the passenger's Passat-sized head. The previous summer, I picked up another strong opinion, especially for motorcyclists at Philmont Scout Ranch. While listening to my friend Bradley tell me at every wrong place to put my feet, I would slip off the cliff and let the what-ifs run through my head as I was hanging just a few feet from where I actually slipped. I remembered what the instructor had told us about the use of brain buckets while climbing. She'd honestly told us that the wimpy little helmets weren't going to save us if we dived off the top of the cliff, but the real purpose was for the rescuers and staff that would have to be left to clean up your mess. The same concept applies to motorcyclists. While wearing a helmet, the rider leaves the nurses and first responders with the simple task of slipping off the helmet, while a helmetless rider leaves nurses holding in their brains and next to what was their head, and others looking for the last piece of skull they didn't bring with them in the ambulance. But still, this is the United States of America, so everyone will want to keep their argument that this is a free country, and we should be able to live adventurous lives no matter the risks or dangers. Motorist.org tells us about how in the past, the only thing that allowed the government to make such laws was the basis that driving was a privilege, and that if you didn't want to wear your seatbelt, you didn't have to drive. But what about the ill effects that seatbelts have to offer? One is whiplash, and anyone that's been rear-ended can probably tell you what it's like. The seatbelt saves you from the front window by slamming your head into the hard headrest, and it's not the greatest feeling in the world. Now, another great thing about seatbelts is they're designed to keep one inside the car as to protect them from what designers are unaware of being outside. But what if in an accident something comes into the car, or even the space where the car was? Say a fence or even a semi, wearing a seatbelt would keep someone from being able to dodge an incoming danger, and even if that person has a ninja's reflexes, they're not going to be able to use that while they're belted in. Hopefully, the facts about this subject alone should help the audience form an opinion in line with the government. I hope no one was upset by the scare tactics used, but the accidents can happen to anyone, and that's reason enough to be prepared for them. Drive home safely.